I gotta tell you, even though I really liked the first film, I mean, it was good. I have fond memories of it, let's say. But I was not too keen to see this press screening. I was like, yeah. I mean, it just didn't seem like a theatrical worthy experience. But I have to say, with those low expectations, I was surprised at how hard this movie ends up going. Like, they really made a huge effort here, more so than the trailers indicate. The scope of the film is shockingly good. Like, from making it a global adventure, I was so impressed that they started out with the opening sequence in Cairo, to some truly stunning visuals. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And then also to some of the best character animations that I've ever seen. I think this is on par with K-pop Demon Hunters in terms of facial expressions and stuff like that. But wow, the work in particular on Danielle Brooks' Kitty Kat, oh my gosh. It's like the animators watched Katie O'Brien in Love Lies Bleeding and turned her into a snow leopard. Wow! I mean, I guess this movie is for kids because it features a bunch of cartoon animals, but I feel the story and a lot of the emotional and real-world elements that are addressed here are very adult-friendly. Like, at my press screening, there were a lot of kids. It's summer, they said, bring who you want, and a lot of people brought their kids. And I have to say, these are some of the nicest kids I've ever seen at a press screening. They were also smart before the movie and really enthusiastic. It gave you hope for the kids of the future, the adults of the future, I guess. And they all paid very close attention to the film as it unfolded. But you know who was laughing throughout this movie? Us adults. Oh, it was a real hoot. It was so funny. I think these are the best kinds of adult jokes in an all ages movie, and that they probably go over kids' heads, but they're very, very funny. Now, this is from Dreamworks Animation, but it felt very Illumination Entertainment to me, as in very European. I had a global feel to it, whereas most Hollywood animation remains pretty Americanized. Not only does the opening sequence take place in Cairo, I loved it. They went all the way through the city. They had a lot of people, locals involved in the action. I thought it was great. But there's also another big sequence early on in the film that takes place at a lucha libre competition, really highlighting that culture as well, including some Fast and the Furious trick cars, which I thought were great. However, there was also a food truck with a giant hot dog on top of it. And I'm like, I'm not the only one seeing this, am I? Like, whoa, that had to be intentional. I mean, I'm surprised that DreamWorks wasn't like, haha, what are you doing? I mean, the movie is very adult-coded. So this sequel is once again directed by Pierre Perifel from France, where he studied animation, until he moved to Hollywood and eventually landed at DreamWorks Animation, where he's been for quite some time, over a decade, starting out as an animator, but then graduating to director, as is par for the course in the field, with the first Bad Guys. I'm surprised they made a sequel. Again, I liked the first movie, but it did not do particularly well at the box office. But thankfully, these are particularly cheap animated movies. And one of the ways that DreamWorks Animation gets away with this is that they outsource this animation, in fact, to other animation studios. What? They did that with the recent Dog Man as well, which I find pretty crazy, but you can't argue with the results. I think these movies look fantastic. And so it brings the budget down, and it gives these smaller animation houses the chance to shine. For instance, one of the animation houses from Dog Man is now making, I think, their own animated feature. So I think it's a system that works for everybody. And then also the films must have done well, or the first film must have done well in the ancillary market after it played in theaters. And they also made 2 holiday specials, which also must have performed well, because here's our sequel. Weirdly, I was talking to a friend. I was like, Bad Guys 2 was surprisingly good. And my friend was like, I was burned bad on those holiday spin-offs. But I think part of the problem there might have been I didn't watch them. So that's maybe one of the reasons I was a little bit more into this movie. But they didn't have the voice cast, which to me is crazy. I'm like, who wants to watch this without Sam Rockwell? But apparently, people did, and I guess they didn't like it. But the original voice cast from the first movie is back for this one, I'm happy to say. So if you also did not care for the holiday specials, don't let that deter you from watching this new sequel. Rockwell to me, always a huge treat. Although just as unsuccessful financially in animation as he is in live action. Why don't more people like Sam Rockwell? But I love that he doesn't make his performance more family friendly for this movie. He's just himself as Mr. Wolf, and it works amazingly well. I'm a big Awkwafina and Mark Maron fan as well, so I love seeing or hearing them here too. And I have to say, I've never seen or heard Anthony Ramos be as funny as he is here. I was like, oh, you got jokes, Ramos. He was very funny. He and Mark Maron have a farts in space gag. That's right, farts in space. That had me laughing so hard out loud at the press screening. I mean, I know, fart jokes, the lowest common denominator of humor, but also a universal comedic language. I mean, they were really funny jokes. I don't even want to ruin them for you, but just the way they were presented visually and also what Anthony Ramos and Mark Maron were saying, it was really funny. Although I was a bit distracted remembering Craig Robinson's recent "I'm quitting comedy" headline and then hearing him here as Mr. Shark. I mean, he's very funny, but I was like, didn't you quit comedy? So what's going on here? I think maybe, I don't know if he should have announced it. Maybe he should have just done it. So Alex Borstein, also always a treat. She's back as the police now commissioner. She has a little bit of a bigger role, which I thought she was great. Well, Zazie Beetz and Richard Iodia, I hope I got that name right, also still do wonderful and rich voice work as they did in the first film, as Mr. Wolf's love interest Diane and the governor, and the evil Professor Marmalade. Marmalade was so funny. I think when Marmalade showed up is when me and my audience really started to have fun with the film. We were like, this is ridiculous in the best way possible. And then the newcomers. I'm also a fan of Natasha Lyonne. I, in fact, don't think she gets enough credit for not only being a great actress, but a very funny comedian. But she's a touch overexposed at the moment. So that, I think, hindered her performance here a little bit for me. But she still had some great gags. Like, who doesn't love seeing her entire face in Mr. Snake's mouth? I thought that was great. That was in the trailers, but it was still funny in the movie. As I told you, some adult comedy here. Speaking of adult comedy, Maria Bakalova. She does a very good Ana de Armas impression as Pigtail Petrova. In fact, I thought it was Ana de Armas. I was like, oh, is Ana de Armas doing comedy? She's pretty funny. But no, it was Bakalova. So she sounds so much like Ana de Armas. I wonder if the performance was modeled on de Armas's accent. But the real standout, by far, I think in fact in the entire film, despite how amazing this voice cast is Danielle Brooks as Kitty Kat. This is just an incredible combination of voice work and animation that demands to be seen. You gotta see this. I mean, I was blown away. Her Kitty Kat is very much a big cat. Powerful, graceful, and very dangerous. Her raw strength and her determination of will are amazing. I loved that for her. She's much more of a villain than any of our bad guys, and she sells it. She has this origin story that she tells. She just tells the story of herself as a child. And I thought it was really great. Danielle Brooks and the animation just command your attention, and it was really relatable. I could see how she had turned evil. I thought it was great. She also has this gag where she always has a lollipop. And the animation on this is just jaw-droppingly good. She's just constantly playing with it in her fangs and with her tongue. And I mean, it reminded me of K-pop Demon Hunters. You know, there's this old thing about how they used to never show female animated characters eating. Like in the Be Our Guest sequence, Belle doesn't eat, even though it's a dinner sequence. And so I think one of the things I liked about K-pop Demon Hunters is that they showed, you know, women being real people. And they had a lot of great gags there. And also, you know, and being real people and not just eating, but having silly moments and powerful, you know, I just really liked it. And I thought that was a lot what I felt there was a similar vibe with Kitty Kat as well. You know, these relatable, complex, realistic, and somewhat comedic movements and facial expressions. I just thought it was really, really strong. Kitty Kat feels like she's always about to pounce, which is fantastic, with her tail twitching and swaying. I mean, she's just, I don't think I've ever seen an animation, aside maybe K-pop Demon Hunters, but they're not as powerful as Kitty Kat. You can feel her blows. You can feel her strength. but it's just such an incredibly strong modern female character. I was very impressed to see this on screen. Why cannot this animated movie be a little sexy? This seems to be Pierre Perifal's attitude, as there's not just Kitty Kat, whose outfit seems painted on where you can see each and every muscle, but also Mr. Wolf and Diane Foxington now fight crime in tight, gorgeous pantsuits. I was like, how crazy. Mr. Wolf is like in space in a suit. I'm like, I love it. I love it. Suits I'm a big fan of a suit on a guy. It looks phenomenal. But also Foxington's, her suit also looked great. I think pantsuits on a woman are harder to pull off, but she looks phenomenal. And she fights in them. Diane and Kitty Kat are both excellent fighters. And their fight sequences, they have multiple fight sequences, are not only very well choreographed, but extremely well animated. Again, you feel the force of their blows and the precision. It was thrilling. And they even have a fight against each other where I thought, wow, this is quite the matchup. It was amazing. But, and I gotta say, Mr. Wolf takes a lot of hits. And at first I was a little worried about maybe downgrading his character at the expense of the female characters, but I think it's really great that he ends up being the big idea man. That's where he's always really shined within his own group and within the sequel. The movie, on that note, has a ton of intricate heists and plot twists, but they all keep the movie going along at a very brisk clip with a lot of visual flair. They just keep changing things up, and you're like, that's gorgeous, that's beautiful, oh, I love what you did there. And the third act action sequence in space is not just thrilling, but again, ends up being a visual stunner. Whoever came up with the idea to have things play out that way, I hope they got a bonus, because it's just incredible. It looks, you know what it looks like? You know when you see an animated movie and you see the concept art and you're like, if only the actual movie had turned out to look that good. The Bad Guys 2 looks as good as how the concept art probably looked. A lot of times they make it more mainstream and more slick and commercialized for the general public instead of the more artistic flair of the concept art. But here, they retained that, and it was just a joy to see. Also, on a more serious note, the movie, I think, addresses some hard questions about whether or not society will let criminals change their ways, or if the system is just set up against them, which is a real problem that I think we are not discussing enough about how people, once they do their time and get back out into the real world, how they find themselves having a very hard time truly escaping their pasts, even though they've paid their debt to society. And I think it's nice that this movie, doesn't just gloss over that or say, oh yeah, it was easy, they're good now. I think that's a big part of this film that I think is very admirable. Do you need to see The Bad Guys 2 in theaters? No, you don't. Of course you don't. But couldn't hurt. It's the end of summer. It's the lazy days of summer. It's super hot right now in a lot of the places on Earth. I think New York are getting a little bit of a reprieve in the next few days. Universal and Dreamworks are like, nuts. But it's going to get hot again. And, there's always the siren call of the air-conditioned movie theater with the plush recliners and the fizzy soda and snacks. And you could definitely, I think, sit down and you would be very happy with this movie. And again, it's so visually stunning that it wouldn't hurt to see it on the big screen. I was impressed. Again, I was surprised at how good it was. Maybe in the third act, it lost me for a second, but it was really good. But you can always save it for later, for digital or streaming. We all know what it's like. You're like, man, I got my dinner sitting right here. I need something to watch. You don't want to watch something for the third or fourth time. You want something fresh. This would be a great choice that I think you'd end up being very pleasantly surprised with. Dreamworks Animation, I think, is on quite a roll these days. And while this might not be as good as Puss in Boots 2, that was incredible, or have the same powerful, moving message as The Wild Robot, it definitely can stand alongside those, maybe a little bit below them, but it doesn't look out of place. And it's certainly a lot better than Kung Fu Panda 4, which I thought was very sloppy. I'm glad Awkwafina got a better movie here. And of course, they set things up for Bad Guys 3, and I actually really like the choices that they made because it's a way to allow our bad guys to stay a little bad, even as they continue to try and do good. So that's my review of The Bad Guys 2 hitting theaters this weekend. I'm excited to hear your own thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.